Before we get into the NBA Finals, Doc Rivers, we predicted would go to the Pelicans. They ended up with the 76ers on a 5-year deal.
I'm surprised. Like, I'm not surprised. Like, for Philly, they got who they wanted, I think. I think originally they were looking at D'Antoni. They just wanted an experienced coach, and then Doc Rivers basically fell into their lap. I'm surprised Doc Rivers took a team that's championship or bust. That's what the Philadelphia 76ers are next season. They are either win or they're going to have to blow it up or do some sort of changes, because right now they've had so much of the process for 6 years now. It's time for them to actually start winning. So I think Doc Rivers will be a good coach there. I just thought he would have stepped back and maybe gone for more of a educational coaching role rather than a championship contending role.
Yeah, because as we mentioned last week, Doc Rivers had the choice of any team: Pacers, Rockets, Philly, Pelicans, as we mentioned. The thing is, because Doc Rivers is going to have no control over at the 76ers, and there's always been a lot of talk around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be keen to see if the 76ers will keep both or if they're going to trade one, because they've got no outside shooting or point guard play, really.
And that was, JJ Redick on his podcast actually came out this week and said that the Philadelphia 76ers made a big mistake by not re-signing him. And I agree with that. They lacked outside shooting this season, and it showed a lot. Like, you've got really, really good guys who can get their own basket, but they're all internal or in that mid-range with Tobias Harris and Simmons and obviously Joel Embiid. But Josh Richardson's not giving you three-point shooting that JJ Redick was. Realistically, Korkmaz is your best three-point shooter on that roster, and that's just not enough to get it done when it counts.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the 76ers have a good roster, and as we mentioned in the previous episode, the whole East is up for grabs.
Yeah, as you can see by the Heat being in the finals, the East is very much up to grabs, and by far and away, Philadelphia is in line similar to the Celtics, where they're young, very talented, and should be Eastern Conference Finals matchup, give or take, unless something changes with Toronto. But I don't see Toronto backing up with what they did this season. I don't think they'll get that far. And I don't think Philly, obviously with Simmons being injured, will have that issue when they're out in the first round again.
Because I think Doc Rivers, the way to go will be have Ben Simmons play at the point as a point forward. I can't see him going power forward with...
Yeah, I can't see the Melton experiment happening again.
No. But I can see what the Lakers do with LeBron James. They have LeBron James being Ben Simmons at 76, and then having the Caruso or the Rondo.
Yeah.
So you can kind of mix it up at who's bringing up the ball.
Yeah, I think the thing for the Philadelphia 76ers realistically is, can Ben Simmons develop enough of a shot? And we saw some glimpses of it this season, enough of a shot that people can't sag off him. Because if you can't sag off him, that opens up his entire repertoire of getting to the basket, being able to give the ball down to Embiid and playing 4 out and getting him double teamed and kicking the ball out. They have a roster. They have a very talented roster. It's just a matter of whether they actually play to the level of their caliber of players.
Yeah, the capabilities. Because they've got a big three of Simmons, Embiid, and Tobias Harris. They just need the right role players. And as we mentioned, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be getting to the Eastern Conference Finals with the right roster moves and changes. Obviously, they've got Al Horford as well, if they want to make some moves with him.
I mean, obviously, it depends on who would take Al Horford's roster. He looked all out of sorts last season playing for the 76ers. I think he looked very much clocking the paint. He was struggling. His shooting wasn't too bad, but realistically, you can't be having Al Horford shooting the ball from outside. But I'm looking at that roster here, and it's not too bad. Obviously, Matisse Thybulle, the rookie, was very solid defensively, and I think he can be a great shutdown 3-and-D kind of player. You got Ben Simmons, Richardson, Horford, Korkmaz, and Harris. That's a great, and obviously Embiid, and a good 6 to 7 deep rotation right there. It's just a matter of, can you get them to perform at the level they should be performing? Otherwise, you might have to make a change and see if someone will flip Al Horford for anything really. But it's expensive
for a guard.
That's $30 million you have to get rid of off the cap.
Yeah, he's getting paid.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah, for sure. And as we mentioned, Doc Rivers with the 76ers now leaves the Clippers head coach vacancy underway. And the Clippers are in the ultimate win now mode. Like they're the most team in the NBA that's win or bust.
Yeah, they are championship or bust, not only because of the fact that their expectations of the talent on their roster, but just because of the way they have built that roster together. Kawhi and PG both have player options this season. They've got a lot of older veterans who are in win now mode. And as you pointed out in previous episodes, they have no draft picks.
Yeah, that's right. So they traded all their draft picks to OKC for Paul George.
So they need to win now, because if they don't win now and Kawhi and PG leave, they're regressed for another 5 to 7 years.
Didn't we establish that the draft picks the players right now in 2020 are currently playing in middle school or something?
Yeah, they'd be year 6. Their next draft pick that they own is 2027. And this obviously there's a lot of swapping rights and a lot of protected stuff. So, you never know what will actually happen and if they'll lose all of their picks. But their next official untouchable pick is 2027, which, as Choc said, is year 6.
Yeah, that's right. So the Clippers draft picks with the Oklahoma City Thunder a couple of years. I know it's not all of them. I think in the early occasions, it's Oklahoma City have the right to swap their pick with the Clippers. If the Clippers is high, it's swapping.
Yeah, it's
but
swapping
then it's just
picks
straight
early.
out. We've got the picks unprotected. Oklahoma City Thunder.
OKC fans sliding in there.
Yeah.
Baz in the front office. Let's make it happen. But you look at it and you go, their roster is really talented and really well made up and quite deep. I mean, you do have the concern this offseason with Montrezl Harrell coming off and Marcus Morris coming off and Reggie Jackson all coming off contract. First things first, you try and lock down Montrez, reigning 6th man of the year. I know the Knicks are talking about pushing 20-something million or 22 million at least a season for him.
What, for another power forward?
For another power forward center combination. That's just what they need, another power forward. But yeah,
they've got like 7 power
they
forwards.
do, but they're looking. They just want a team changer. Which look, I like.
Yeah, but Montrezl Harrell isn't the answer for that.
No, and I don't think I think he's a starter. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think he's getting you 20 and 10 every night. I just don't think that's his way of playing, and I don't think he would do that on a team where he is just the man. I definitely think he's built for a team where there's another star or two around him where he can get a lot of points off them being scored, being double teamed.
I'd find it hilarious if the Knicks side Fred VanVleet and
Montrez for a combined like $50 million. That's Knicks stuff. That's James Dolan type stuff to do. But, so you've got to lock up Montrezl Harrell. I assume Marcus Morris is not going to go anywhere. I think he knows where his bread's buttered. I think he knows that that's where he's going to have the best chance of winning a chip outside of, possibly joining another contender in the East, because I don't think he's going to join the Lakers, obviously, with his brother there. But the other concern I have for me is Lou Williams is 34. I think you sometimes forget how long he's been in the league.
He's been in it for so many years.
But he's 34 this offseason, and he didn't have the same spark in the bubble as he did in the regular season. He didn't show the sort of scoring off the bench that he normally does. He wasn't shooting the ball very well. He could be a possible trade chip for some teams. Obviously he's a great 6th man, so it'll be interesting to see whether someone would trade for him. But at 34, if he can hopefully play the way he played last season heading into the bubble before he got to the bubble, then you keep him, and that's something to consider though, that he's 34. And then as I mentioned earlier, obviously you've got PG and Kawhi who are player options after this season.
Yeah. Lou Williams reminds me of the type of player that goes a lot off atmosphering and crowd playing, getting the crowd hyped up and getting just
he's a momentum
player. That's right.
And the bubbles the bubble's a weird thing. Like, we've spoken about this when we first got into the bubble, with no fans or minimal fans now in the playoffs, but with no fans, a different setup, it's just hard to recreate that atmosphere. And for some players, they're just generally motivated by themselves. Your Jimmy Butlers, your LeBron James, those kind of guys have just generated their own sort of momentum. But for some players, they rely heavily on hearing the crowd screams and hearing that momentum swing and hitting a big three and, looking out to the crowd. Like, that's a J.R. Smith kind of player who's like plays up to the atmosphere that he's in. So maybe that's why Lou Williams didn't perform as well.
Who do you feel like will take the head coaching job at the Clippers?
Look, the coaching, they have a lot of like options out there.
So I don't know who's favorite. I don't know who's favorite to take the job at all.
Well, they haven't really looked at it, to be honest.
I know there's going to be the usual names: Ty Lue.
Yeah, Ty Lue, D'Antoni. Pretty much anyone who is coached in the last 2 or 3 years will be there. Jay Kidd's a possible option. I think that Ty Lue doesn't take the job. I think he actually ends up falling to Houston, because we know D'Antoni's not going back to Houston. So I think Ty Lue's going to look to try and slide in there, because I recommend to the LA Clippers Sam Cassell.
To the LA Clippers. So I don't know why I thought you said Lakers. You're like LA You're like LA Clippers. I'm like, you're wrong. It's the Lakers.
But I think Sam Cassell's been there a few years now. He knows the systems. The players respect him. He's a great teacher of the game.
He played at the organization for years.
Yeah, between there and Boston, he had some great years in the league as a backup point guard, and he was big for Rondo's development as well.
Yeah,
I think he is a great coach to have for PG and Kawhi moving forward. I think he knows the system enough, knows the players enough to just sort of take them in stride. But he also has the ability to pick up some of those younger players and help them on like Man and like Zubac, and help them sort of grow and develop. Because I think going down the stretch, Zubac is going to be huge for them, because he's going to be guarding, your ADs, your JaVales, and obviously moving forward next season, he's going to be guarding the best big man,
But
in
do you
my
think
opinion.
the Clippers will go for an unproven coach?
See, I think he's proven, though.
Sam Cassell?
Yeah, he's an assistant coach on a very good side for the last 3-4 years now. That, to me, is proven. What are you going to take? You're going to take Ty Lue, who's realistically LeBron James coached that side to multiple finals, or are you going to take D'Antoni, whose system didn't work, and you can't bring him across because they're not playing a small ball system in in LA. I don't think either of those coaches fit the roster they have. It'd be easy to slide Ty Lue across, and I could see it happening, and I wouldn't be mad about it. But I think I don't take the expected name. I take Sam Cassell.
So, Rig, and I'm going to use quotation marks here because, it's not confirmed, but the short list right now for the coaches for the Clippers from 1 to 4, Tyronn Lue, number 1, Mike D'Antoni, number 2, Jeff Van Gundy, number 3, and Sam Cassell, number 4.
Yeah, Jeff Van Gundy, a lot of rumors about Jeff Van Gundy coming out of the commentator's
I thought he was going to go to the Rockets as well.
Oh, that's still a possibility.
But I thought Ty Lue was
also a
favourite for the
possibility.
Pelicans.
Ty Lue could definitely do some things at the Pelicans. It's hard because there's so many spots open, but Ty Lue, J Kidd, they're still in the bubble. Sorry, J Kidd's still in the bubble, so you don't know what he's going to do. Van Gundy hasn't decided where he's going to leave the commentary box. There's so many. Even what about Mark Jackson? Mark Jackson
I love
could
how his
leave and
name
coach
doesn't
again.
get thrown around anywhere.
He
He must have pissed someone off.
He must have, because what he did at the Warriors was fantastic in those early years, and he established something that Steve Kerr just carried on with, and it improved. Don't get me wrong, Steve Kerr had a lot to do with their championships, but Mark Jackson laid a foundation there for those players. So there's a lot of names to be thrown around, but I think it's got to be either Ty Lue or Sam Cassell. I'm leaning towards Sam Cassell. You need a guy who's in the organization, who's already got the respect and the attention of the players in that system, and it's just sort of a seamless transition, because you've got 1 year, or it could all blow up in your face.
Yeah, but that's why I feel like they're going to go for... They lean towards someone like D'Antoni or Jeff Van Gundy, because Sam Cassell and Ty Lue strike me as the type of coaches that will be in the organization for 5+ years. Like, everyone gets... Like, Doc Rivers got an opportunity for the 76ers for 5+ years.
Yeah.
Brett Brown at 76 before that had 7 years. Billy Donovan at Oklahoma had 7 years. But I feel like if you're the Clippers, and it all comes to... Because if they have to win, like, they honestly have to win.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why they're going to go with a proven coach. And it might be Jeff Van Gundy or D'Antoni.
Well, not so much for Van Gundy, but D'Antoni, I hope he gets that Clippers job. Or it's slim pickings after that. You're going to Indiana or the Pelicans.
Indiana, I reckon. I'm vibing the Pacers.
But a coach like that shouldn't be stuck in both those places. He's not a building coach. He's not about young prospects, and he's certainly not a rebuilding coach.
Yeah.
So you want to hope, D'Antoni, you get that job, because Doc Rivers just snaked your role.
That's it.